tu labda pengine masaa ya kuhesabu kabla tuweze kupata uamuzi wa mahakama kwa lile swala ambalo nafikiri linazungumzwa na wengi mitandaoni, maana yake kuna utata kuhusiana na kuwepo kwa wanajeshi, lakini saa 9 alasiri ya leo tutapata uamuzi, alafu na baadaye mjadala huenda ukabadilika kwa mujibu wa jinsi ambavyo uamuzi wa mahakama utaweza kuchukuliwa. Na kwa wengine kwa mujibu wa wakili tusubiri hali itakapokuwa kule bungeni. Ndapo
nakuaje?
Ana, wacha. Nana. They are doing their work.
Which work? Bazu, we are doing this for our living tomorrow. Hey, endeni bwana. Hata wewe ni mzazi umbwa.
Kumeni pressure ni upo. Watu wametaka mbio.
Ndio hiyo.
Na mtazamaji, ni picha hizo za kuonesha jinsi mambo yalivyo na maafisa wa polisi kabiliana na waandamanaji. Lakini kuna mjadala mzuri kuko nimeanzisha upande wa pili, nataka kuweza kuleta kwenu, ambao ni mjadala wa maana sana, kwamba kuna ujumbe ambao umeweza kupitishwa na wale walikuwa wakiandamana Gen Z, kwamba imefika mahali ya kwamba kila tukiamka asubuhi twaona mazungumzo na malumbano na tofauti za uchaguzi unaokuja. Ndio kama ndio tamaduni hivi sasa, ila hali wanajiuliza ule muda wa sisi kuambiwa kuhusu maendeleo ni upi? Ikiwa kila siku tuwazungumzia, kila aliyepo anapanga namna atakavyokuwa, atakavyosalia katika mwaka unaokuja.
Rashid, hapa inafaa tujiulize maswali mengi sana. Wale wabunge ambao wako katika bunge letu na pia sehemu mbalimbali za uongozi, swali ni hili: je, walijiweka pale ama sisi ndio tuliwaweka pale? Jawabu ni kuwa ni mimi na wewe tulipiga foleni asubuhi, alfajiri, hata kabla ya kifungua kinywa tukawapiga kura. Tuliwachagua kwa misingi gani? Wajua, mara nyingine tunanyoosha vidole vya lawama kwa wale viongozi, lakini tujiulize, ni nani walioweka wale viongozi pale? Ni mimi na wewe Rashid, tuliwachagua. Tuliwachagua kwa misingi gani? Tuliangalia sifa gani? Tuliangalia kitu au utu? Wengi wetu tuliangalia kitu. Nataka tujirudie sisi kama wananchi. Nataka haya ambayo yanatokea hivi sasa, kama yanatuuma kweli na tuna ghera na nchi yetu, wacha tuseme tubadilikeni wa Kenya. Uchaguzi ujao tuamue tunachagua watu sio kwa sababu ya kitu walichonacho, kwa sababu wengi pale watakwambia nilitumia fedha zangu ndio nikachaguliwa. Kwa hivyo huu ni wakati wa kukusanya zile pesa nilizotumia na zikusanya, na ili nichaguliwe tena lazima niwe na nyingi. Lakini sisi wananchi tukiamua tutamchagua mtu hata kama hana chochote kwa sababu ya sifa zake, tutaanza kubadilisha hizi tabia mbaya, tabia za kuona kuwa nishaingia hapa, huu ni wakati wangu wa kukusanya zile nilizotumia uchaguzi uliopita, na ili nichaguliwe tena
kumtoa katika kuuliza swali, kwa sababu tumeona kwamba hata kabla tufike masuala ya mswada wa fedha wa mwaka 2024 tumekuwa na mjadala wa vipi tutajipanga kwa idadi kama eneo, kama inaonekana kwamba kila kitu ambacho kinakuja katika macho yetu lazima ni kitu ambacho kinafungamana na uchaguzi
ujao. Ni kwa sababu ya nini? Kwa sababu mimi ninajua niwe na sifa za uongozi au sina sifa za uongozi. Tutasema damu nzito kuliko maji. Watanichagua watu wangu niwe mzuri ama ni mbaya. Kwa hivyo tunajirudisha kwenye siasa za kikabila. Siwezi kumlaumu mtu yote ambaye anajirudisha katika siasa za kikabila, kwa sababu hiyo ndio sera yetu. Kwa nini tusiamue kama Wakenya? Tutamchagua mtu bila kuangalia kabila lake, bila kuangalia chama chake, bila ya kuangalia ana kitu ama hana kitu. Tuangalie sifa ya uongozi. Na mimi sifa kubwa kabisa ya kiongozi ni kiongozi ambao utamwambia ogopa Mwenyezi Mungu. Huu uongozi uliopewa utaulizwa na Mwenyezi Mungu. Ukiharibika jambo, wewe ndio utakaulizwa. Huyo ndio kiongozi ambaye tunamtaka, na sio kiongozi mnafiki. Tunataka kiongozi ambaye ni mchaji Mungu kweli.
Lakini kama kweli, manake hapa pia nafikiri tuko katika njia pana. Ikiwa kweli tunasema kwamba kila wanachokifanya wanazungumza kuhusu uchaguzi wa mwaka unaokuja ama katika chaguzi unaokuja, swali ni kwamba mbona katika swala zima la wakati kuna mswada pale bungeni na tumejua wazi kwamba una mswada ndio Wakenya wengi ima wanautaka ama hawautaki, na mnajua wazi kwamba hawa Wakenya tusipowapa maendeleo na tusipowapa kile ambacho wanastahili, basi pia kama ni kutumia mambo ya uchaguzi, kwamba pia uchaguzi unaokuja huenda Wakenya wengi wakasema hatuwapi. Inakuwaje katika masuala ya uchaguzi, wao kufikiria uchaguzi wanajifikiria wao, lakini kiongozi azifikiria matakwa ya wengi ambao wao ndio ambao wameweka mahali yupo? Sio kama naeleweka.
Sababu atanunua.
Sio kama naelewa daktari. Ikiwa kweli kama kwa maelezo yake ya Sheikh Ibrahim ndio mazuri tu sana, kwamba ni kitu ambacho tumekirithi kutoka zamani. Na ndio ukweli kwamba nchi yetu ya Kenya kuwa na maono mazuri, lakini bila kuongeza posho huenda ukasalia katika tu karatasi za kupigia kura. Lakini kama Wakenya walijitokeza na wakasema kwamba tuwataka hichi sisi, na tukaona kwamba hata zile ngome ambazo walikuwa watu watarajie kama watajitokeza, watu wakajitokeza, mbona isingetoa hofu ya kwamba ili sio swala la kisiasa, ili ni swala la kitaifa na ni swala la huduma? Wananchi wanasema kwamba hii itawaletea shida, na pia tuone kwamba kama tukiendelea hivi mbele huenda tukajipata mahali pabaya. Mbona hizi siasa hatukuziangalia kwa swala zima la mswada wa fedha mwaka 2024 tukamalizana nalo mapema kabla kufikia pale mahali limefika?
Kweli, na nirudi tu penye tulianzia wakati kiongozi deputy president alisema maneno ya mwenye hisa, ile maneno ya shareholding. Akiingia venye viongozi waliingia kule, walipata hizi nafasi za uongozi, wengi wanasema walitumia pesa, na walitumia pesa zao za kibinafsi, so ni kama ilikuwa ni uwekezaji walikuwa wanafanya hapo. Na wakiingia wanasema ni duka mimi nilifungua, lazima sasa na mimi niweze kufanya nini, kujirudishia zile pesa niliwekeza pale. Na hapo ndio tunaona badala waweze kuzingatia na kupatia pesa zile mifumo ama zile projects zenye ziko na high impact, either ni socially ama ni zile zina productively, kama ni kuweka vitu za infrastructure, wao wanawekeza pesa kurudisha kwa watu wenye waliwachagua, ndio wahakikishe baada ya miaka 5 wataweza kurudishwa kule. Na nimeonanga kitu ikiwa mbaya sana kama mhadhiri wa somo la biashara, hii maneno ya kusema mwenye hisa. Mwenye hisa yeye ndiye mwenye kampuni, lakini wenye tumewaeka kwa uongozi si wenye hisa. Hao ni wenye tunaweza sema ni bodi ya wakurugenzi. Na bodi ya wakurugenzi inachaguliwa na wenye hisa. Na bodi ya wakurugenzi isipofanya vyenye wanahisa wanataka, inafaa isimamishwe kazi. Na kwa kawaida wanahisa wanasimamishanga bodi ya wakurugenzi kila mwaka, ila wakati wamekuwa na ile inaitwa AGM. Kwa hivyo kama mwanahisa Sisi kwa tukifananisha kampuni na nchi, mwanahisa ni sisi, because sisi ndio shareholders na sisi ndio citizens. Venye wakili alisema, ile kipengele ya kwanza ya katiba ya Kenya inasema mamlaka yote na nguvu zote zimewekwa kwa mwenye nchi. Lakini kwa hii utaratibu imekuwa wenye wanaitwa bodi ya wakurugenzi wanakuwa ndio wenye nchi na sisi tunakuwa ni wananchi, na hiyo maneno inafaa ibadilike. Sisi tubaki, sisi ndio wenye nchi na wao wakuwe ndio wakubwa wetu na wazingatie mashauri yenye sisi tunawapatia.
Pia nyinyi viongozi wa kidini mnapiga hesabu ya uchaguzi unaokuja.
Kwanza nianze
kujihusisha kwamba nijihusisha na Rashidi na pia
kuna culture katika nchi hii ambayo inaitwa poverty related mentality, akili ya umaskini. Ati tunalea watoto wetu katika akili ya kujua kwamba yeye hajiwezi, anataka kupewa. Tumekataa ile inaitwa jitegemea, ile akili ama majivuno ya jitegemea, mtu ya kusema na kujitegemea. Na shida yetu, kabla hatujalea watu, tupatilishe akili za watu, tuwalete katika akili ya jitegemea, watu wajivune kama watu, tutakuwa hapo miaka mingi, whether wewe ni mtu ya dini ama wewe sio mtu ya dini. Sababu hata sisi watu wa dini, kama hatutajiondoa katika mambo ya kupewa, tuanze kujitegemea, kama hatutajiondoa katika ile akili ya kwamba wamishonari watatusaidia, kama wakili wangu, kama hutaleta tithe tujenge kanisa letu na tuendelee, tutegemee kupewa, tutakuwa hapo siku zote. Na ndio inabidi tufundishe watu wetu. Hawa vijana wako kwa barabara kwa nini? Hawa youth wako kwa barabara because hatujawafundisha ile hali ya kujitegemea. Meaning, tujenge inji, tuwaje mambo ya shareholders, tujenge inji, tuempower ama tuwapatie vijana wetu nguvu, tutengeneze mito, tutengeneze makambuni, tutengeneze njia ambapo
where we were a few minutes ago, a lot of maybe I should say mayhem happening at this particular time. So we'll be able to see what exactly is happening on that end. So this tanker actually, this is from the GSU unit, and the few individuals who you can also see here trying as much as possible to see if their businesses will continue to happen. Pengine naona so mambo iko vipi leo?
Mambo ni mbaya. Sisi kama wafanyikazi wa hiyo hoteli tumepata shida sana, hakuna customer, lakini tunaomba hii maneno iishe. Customer, at least tupate customer.
Kwa mtazamo wako, nimeona watu wamekuwa wanakimbia tu hapa na pale, tear gas hapa na pale. Imeaffect aje nyinyi kama wanabiashara?
Sasa ndio nakwambia hakuna customer, ndugu yangu. Customer wote wameingia mitini. Ni sisi tunangangana tu na wenyewe. At least wenye wanajificha wakule, wasipatikane na tear gas, wanakuja kukula kitu kidogo huku hivi.
Nyinyi mambo na finance bill, najua tunasema ni kama ni jambo ambalo watu wameliongelea kwa muda sana. Mnakubaliana wale wanaandamana, mkubaliani nao, ama mtazamo wenu mnasemaje? Uchumi iko sawa ama mnafikiri tunaweza pata nafuu kidogo?
Tuweze kupata nafuu kidogo. Uchumi iko mbaya. Hatuwezi sema uchumi iko sawa. Uchumi iko mbaya. Uchumi iko mbaya kabisa.
Some drunk individual there trying to cause trouble, but with that we cannot tolerate that. So in all aspects, what is happening in the CBD, you will agree, we will be able to try and catch up with the police officers who were trying as much as possible to do what they're doing. But at this particular time, this stage actually takes a lot of individuals to the sides of Jogoro, Donholm, if you're thinking about Feather and also Cabanas. So you can see very few individuals are even boarding the vehicles at this particular time, simply because of the kind of havoc that has been in the central business district. But in perspective, a lot of questions as to where we will be moving next and what needs to be done. But still, in the CBD, it's troubled and troubled this particular hour. And this is actually what is happening on this end. So we try again and see what we will be able to discover after some few time. But again, at Tomboya Street, we're back at Tomboya Street, and you can see security forces, a number of individuals also walking here, a number of also people from the media house. And when we say media house, we have the mainstream media house, but also TikTokers and the likes are also part of the team at this particular time. So they are trying as much as possible to disseminate the information and to say what exactly is happening from this end. Back to you in studio.
All right, Moses Wahisi, thanks for that update, even as we continue training our camera lenses across various counties in the country. Even as we focus on Nairobi, as you can see on your screens, Kakamega County is equally a beehive of activities, not too busy in comparison to the scenes we witnessed on Tuesday. But as you can see, a number of Kenyans have turned out to the streets to protest. Peaceful so far in terms of the engagements between the police and the protesters. No developments as of yet, but what we've seen, Aseto, in the CBD in Nairobi is that most businesses have been affected. Most of them have been closed, and we just want to know if it is the same situation on the ground in Kakamega County. Let's listen.
Shika nishikia hapa. Angalia i-monitor tu. Enda ikifunguka enda KTN live. Unafunguka? Click mahali imeandikwa KTN live. Nisi angesimama. Bongo, iko ni app leo. Aende pole pole. Simame hapa, nataka kuona hiyo kitu.
From Eldoret, County, as we can see, it is calm today. It seems like people are going about their business as usual, as opposed to what we witnessed in the past few days when demonstrations rocked this town, Uasin town. It is called the home of champions. But this on your screen as well is the military stationed in industrial area. Remember, the military was deployed following the Gazette notice by CS Eden Duale, and which was also discussed in the National Assembly. This is industrial area prison as the military continue to do their rounds in the CBD Nairobi. Now they're just going to various parts of the city, and as we speak right now, they are at the industrial area prison as they continue to assist the police in making sure that peace and tranquility is actually maintained in the country. This following the Tuesday demonstrations that saw protesters manage to actually invade Parliament as they had warned earlier, a situation that has seen the security apparatus in the country take a step further and also deploy the security, that is the military, in making sure that peace and security is realized in the country. It is not a normal thing to see the situation where militaries are actually deployed. But now let's go straight to the CBD and listening to what the Gen Zs have to say, the protesters have to say.
Taxes, there's no Linda Mama. Land, bread, sanitary products, motor, everything. Your work, imported goods.
They told us they withdrew the tax on the sanitary products. They told us they withdrew the VAT on bread. They told us they withdrew the manufactured that issue of land. They have withdrawn so many things. So what is the remaining problem?
Why? Sorry.
Corruption is the biggest. If Kere is exempted from the data protection. Also, the money in their pockets. Why does the office of the First Lady need money? Why do we need to renovate? Why do we need to renovate State House? State House was built renovated the other day. Why? Why do politicians have to go for holidays and the common Mwananchi cannot? How do they even know how much a carrot costs? So garlic needs 30 bob. Where do the internet connection? They cut the internet. Where does the government tenders go? Where does that money go? Politicians are flaunting on us on TikTok with the words of money. The tenders they're given, where does that money go? We do not want them. And you know, we cut the internet. That's a human rights violation.
Those are protesters the CBD Nairobi airing their views on why the finance bill has to be rejected. Already it's been rejected and it's been returned to Parliament, and the Parliament is going to do what they're supposed to do. But we wait and see. We're watching on what's happening. The youth are here. They are still demonstrating, talking about the things that they don't feel are right about this country. And that's why they are here. And they're here to show up in the numbers to ensure that their voices are heard. So we will be covering everything they'll be saying here, and everything will be happening here. We've seen police officers, the military on the other side, been deployed officially in the CBD as we wait the ruling from High Court Judge Lawrence Mugambi on whether they should go back to the barracks or not. But right now, police are going around throwing tear gases to demonstrators, to protesters. And we are following this keenly to give updates on what exactly is happening and how far are they determined to go.
Enda mbele huko bwana, tunajua hakuna picha tunachukua. Wewe Rono bwana. Enda mbele ile. Sasa live, sasa wewe uko nyuma.
And from Nairobi County, we go to Eldoret. As you can see, there are those who are actually armored with batons and equally crowds that have gathered in Eldoret. These, as we continue to see what happened, remember that Eldoret equally witnessed protesters, and this seems to be a gathering. I don't know what it is they are doing, but again, today the military is out, police officers are out. In Eldoret, seems to be peaceful today, nothing much happening. People just are in a procession walking in Eldoret town. These, as we continue to follow up in what is happening, these protesters who are just marching and we're not sure what it is they are doing in Eldoret, but it is a situation that we continue to follow up. Remember that the past few days we have seen Eldoret experience protesters who went on to loot business premises. We know some properties or politicians were attacked, but today we see it is relatively peaceful. Businesses, I'm not sure if they are working as expected of them, but this is a crowd in Eldoret, Uasin Gishu County, as people are walking armed with batons, as opposed to the other time when we could see placards. There are no placards this time round. No one is chanting. They're just walking in the CBD. Jesse.
Well, definitely, we continue with our unrivaled news coverage of today's developments. Remember, the youth had hinted that they would turn out to the streets today, all to do with the finance bill protests, but it seems to be a stark contrast to the scenes we saw on Tuesday. This time round in Eldoret, as Aseto has mentioned, the numbers are on the streets indeed, but it doesn't seem to be well coordinated in terms of the chants we saw on Tuesday around the finance bill, in terms of the cat and mouse games between the police and the protesters. But it's equally proper to note that the police presence across the country is notable, definitely buffered by the security forces, the KDF, who are equally on the streets, not just in Nairobi County, but other areas as well. But just live pictures right there from Eldoret town. The numbers are on the streets. Seems to be a little bit of confusion and standstill as they seem to be maneuvering their way around the town. But that's the latest in terms of the state of affairs on the ground. Eldoret seems to be picking up right now. Remember, earlier on it was mostly calm across the country, including in Nairobi. We saw protests in Migori and Kisumu, a little bit heightened. We understand that those individuals walking in Eldoret are anti-protesters. So interesting. Remember, we are a democratic country, and it's not just the right of those who are against the finance bill to protest. So in Eldoret, we might see those who are exercising Article 37 of the Constitution, perhaps in support of the government of the day. Quite peaceful, even as they walk around the streets of Eldoret. But we continue with our unrivaled coverage. Our camera lenses are trained in various cities across the country. Nairobi of key interest, bearing in mind what exactly played out on Tuesday in terms of the protesters overwhelming the police who were on the streets. Thereafter, the Cabinet Secretary of Defense declared a security emergency in the country and gazetted the deployment of KDF. Of course, we've seen the push and pull in terms of the process, in terms of which the KDF was deployed, bearing in mind the Constitution mentions that Parliament should first approve, then KDF to be deployed. But this time round, it was done the other way. But we've definitely seen KDF presence across the Nairobi capital, CBD. The top left right there, we can see them around industrial area, just trying to maintain law and order, showing a sign of might and presence around the country. bearing in mind the state of anarchy, quote unquote, that we might have seen on Tuesday as protesters overwhelmed security forces and made their way to Parliament. This time round, a little bit earlier on, Aseto, we heard from our reporters, Jeff Kirui and the likes, that Parliament is definitely in a heightened state of security. Police officers around there, even as the military officers make their way across various parts of the country, especially the capital, Nairobi. And what's of note, Aseto, is that we've seen restraint. And I mean, let's give them a pat on their back. We haven't seen any excesses, especially from the police, in those few instances where we've seen them face off with protesters, especially in the capital. But what we had from our reporters on the ground, especially in Migori, we understand that 4 people were shot in terms of the altercation between the police officers and the protesters. 4 people sustained gunshot wounds and 2 police injured during the Migori demonstrations. Among those who were shot, 2 are in critical condition, and the injured are, of course, receiving treatment at Migori County Referral Hospital. So that's in Migori, a stark difference in terms of the state of affairs, in terms of what we're seeing right here in Eldoret, in other parts of the country as well. But equally, to remind our audience back at home that the president just yesterday, because we had one of the Gen Z protesters in the CBD Nairobi talk about a couple of issues that seem to have irked her and forced her to go to the streets, talking about, you know, some of the tax proposals and the wanton government spending in terms of lack of austerity measures. And it's proper to note that just yesterday, President William Ruto did mention that there would be budget reductions, specifically earmarking a 200 billion reduction in the development budget. He proposed austerity measures affecting the presidency, various state departments, including cuts to confidential expenditures, which was a sore issue. Hospitality as well has seen budget cuts, vehicle purchases and renovations. So these are some of the issues that were canvassed just yesterday by President William Ruto, and perhaps might have slowed down the momentum of the protesters on the streets. This is a difference from what we saw, Aseto, on Tuesday, indeed, right?
Yes, and yes, indeed, Jesse, today we see a difference, because even on Tuesday in Eldoret, we saw those who were anti-finance bill, but today we see those who are anti-protesters, and as rightfully put, everyone has the right, according to the Article 37 of the Constitution. And new information is that we expect at 3 p.m, that is High Court Judge Lawrence Mugambi to deliver a ruling on whether KDF should retreat to barracks or not. And Attorney General, Defense Ministry opposed the case filed by LSK. And on the left side of your screen, that is the military who have been deployed in the country that is outside the industrial area prison, as they could continue to assist the police with regard to maintaining security and order in the country. This follows the fact that the protesters overwhelmed the police in Nairobi, overran the police at Parliament building. We saw the destruction that happened there, also the destruction at the county governor's offices in Nairobi, that is City Hall. Hence the reason why the Gazette notice was actually issued by Defense CS and Ale. But this is Eldoret, and what you're seeing on your screen, these seem to be armed individuals but anti-protesters, as they equally exercise their right according to the Constitution, Article 37, to peaceably demonstrate and picket as they continue to go about their business. But this is the military that has been deployed. Remember that we expect the judge to give a ruling at 3 p.m. on whether the military will be going back to the barracks or not. But then again, this is Eldoret, Uasin Gishu County, anti-protesters marching, not chanting, no banners this time round, just going about their business, walking around the CBD, making sure that there are no protesters in the town. That is Uasin Gishu County. And where they are actually sitting as we speak right now is outside the Uasin Gishu County offices, the headquarters. And this is a place of interest because in there actually the protesters got in and torched 2 vehicles, including the county court premises that deals with matters to do with the county. Those are anti-protesters in Uasin Gishu County. But on your screen right now, this is the APC armored personnel carrier that is ferrying the military who have been doing rounds in the CBD in Nairobi, which is of utmost importance. We saw what happened in the city. Protesters got to the parliament buildings, the destruction that happened there. Talk about the police vehicles that were torched in the CBD, the destruction on people's businesses, those that lost their businesses. Sunbeam business premises was actually razed down completely. People lost their businesses. If you go to the interwebs, people saying how they've lost everything, their savings, their businesses razed down by the protesters. You talk about the county offices, talk about pretty much the economy that has stalled because of the protests that have happened in the city, but the military have been deployed following that Gazette notice that was released by the Cabinet Secretary Eden Duale before the National Assembly discussed the same, approved the deployment of the KDF who are assisting the police officers in maintaining law and order. And as rightfully said, the concerns that the protesters have been bringing forth have been matters to do with increased taxation that they feel is unfair to them. And this has been a clarion call not only this week, but last week as well, when we saw the demonstrations that spilled over to this week. And today they said they would be going out there to take over State House that has seen and has been met by heightened security in the country. You see the military has been deployed in the CBD. The police are making sure that the would-be protesters who are protesting in the downtown area of the CBD do not advance to the upper area, and police are dealing with them around Luthuli Avenue, Ronald Ngala, around RNG Plaza, that is that entire area, in making sure that protesters do not get to destroy property, do not get to advance further. But equally, we have seen that business people, those who own businesses, entrepreneurs in the CBD have taken charge. They are armed with batons and have told the police officers that they will do everything necessary to protect their premises. That on your screen, those KDF officers taking charge and making sure that the country is safe.
Okay, interesting. And we continue with our coverage, even as we want to link up with our senior political affairs reporter, Jeff Kirui, who is right there next to the heavily armored vehicle right there. So Kirui, if you can hear me, let's just understand if there are any crowds that are moving their way using that route towards the CBD, and equally, why exactly is the military cordoning off this particular area? Kirui, if you can hear me.
Well, Delcy, what exactly is happening here is that we are at Enterprise Road, and the police actually, this is actually the Kenya Defense Forces team. They have been patrolling the streets of Nairobi. We followed them all the way from Koinange Street, University Way, Uruai Way, Bunyala, Lusaka Road. Right now we are at Enterprise Road, but now there is a problem here because still two of their vehicles, the armored personnel carriers, have developed mechanical problems. So that is why you're seeing we have been here for the last about 10 to 15 minutes, and that is the current problem that they're having here. So just on people who are curious to know what the problem is, but now we are on the move. They have left behind a number of officers who are actually ensuring that their vehicles are safe, but now we are back on transit. We are heading now back. I don't know whether we will be going to the CBD or we will be heading to the city stadium route, but we wait to see exactly what will happen. But so far, two of the armored personnel carriers are actually grounded along Enterprise Road. I don't know whether it's a fuel issue, but their car wouldn't start. So they are trying to figure out what the problem is, and these are caused this commotion you're seeing along Enterprise Road, because most of the people are wondering what is happening here, but it's just a mechanical breakdown, and some have actually, they are on the move. It's also, remember that this area as well is the area that has the industrial area the industrial area prisons. So there is a lot of commotion because also the prison officers are manning this area. Since morning, they have been surrounding this place to ensure that the safety of prisoners. Now that the demonstrations we witnessed, some of the demonstrators are coming all the way from the side of Jogoo Road and Landis. So they are ensuring that the safety of their prisoners is actually well catered for or taken care of. But now we are outside the industrial area prisons, and they have also stopped here waiting for a reinforcement, perhaps to come and tow the 2 APCs that have broken down. Jesse.
That update, even as the military personnel try and get their affairs in order. It seems one of their cars has developed mechanical problems, and that's why they have lingered around the Nairobi Remand and Allocation Maximum Security Prison, better known as Industrial Area Prison. But that's the latest, even as they continue making rounds in various areas within Nairobi County just to ensure security is tight. As you can see on the right side of the screen, that is within CBD, and it seems there is tear gas canisters that have been lobbed right there. I can't see the number of people who perhaps are being suppressed, but we'll definitely keep you updated in terms of the security situation in the CBD. But remember, this is definitely a stark difference in terms of what we saw on Tuesday. More police officers in the streets as they patrol, making sure that security is of utmost priority. And perhaps this big climb down by President William Ruto yesterday, as he bowed to the relentless pressure by Kenyans to refuse to assent to the finance bill, has equally led to a climb down by protesters who had been identified majority from the Gen Z age group. And it seems they have equally stepped down. If I can just quote President William Ruto verbatim, he said he proposes an engagement with young people of our nation to listen to their issues and agree with them on the priority areas of concern. He equally proposed that within the next 14 days, a multi-sectoral, multi-stakeholder engagement should be held with a view of charting the way forward on matters relating to the context of the Finance Bill 2024, of which he refused to assent to. But that's the latest on the streets right now. Not much activity going on in terms of protests, but even as we await for this particular armored personnel vehicle to at least be fixed, Aseto, right?
And yes, indeed, we wait to see what next for the military officers whose vehicles are, as we speak, still grounded near the industrial area remand prison. And as you can see, both security from within the prison area and equally the military officers there, as they wait to see that that situation is actually fixed and they are able to continue with the rounds that they have been doing across pretty much within the city the whole day today. And it is important to note that the security was actually military officers were deployed after police officers were overwhelmed Tuesday. That saw protesters manage to gain access to the National Assembly. We saw the destruction that happened in the CBD and in other parts of the country as well. The reason why today, as we speak, the military, we can see them on the streets trying to make sure that security is actually heightened. And it is important to note that with regard to the Finance Bill 2024, the contentious bill was actually withdrawn by the President and referred back to the National Assembly to be able to go back to the entire process. This as the President made concessions, and as I quote him, he said that he has finally conceded and that there is need to have conversation with the Gen Zs. Remember, the Gen Zs and the millennials pretty much have been pushing this agenda of the Finance Bill 2024 to be rejected in its entirety. What happened after President William Ruto gave that statement saying that he would be be withdrawing that bill. But even as we have that discussion in Nairobi, we've seen protesters in the CBD. Those are live pictures coming from the CBD as police officers continue to make sure that security is actually maintained within the CBD. We know there are areas where there is police lobbing tear gas to protesters. These as they continue to maintain and insist that there would be no protesters in the CBD. These after what we witnessed in the past few days, the numbers in there, the numbers of protesters in the CBD and in Eldoret equally, that was witnessed. And as we continue to witness the same, this is actually Nairobi. This is near Archives, as police officers seem to be apprehending one of the protesters, taking them to perhaps their waiting vehicle. This is behind Archives actually, where matatus pick and drop their passengers. This is Tomboya as you go down towards Haile Selassie Avenue. And you can see further down, that is Ronald Ngala Street, as people seem to be running. That is tear gas that has been lobbed, police officers running towards mayhem further down in making sure that protesters do not advance. It has been actually a game of cat and mouse, who will beat who is the smarter one. But as you can see, those are officers running towards Ronald Ngala. But now we go to Eldoret County, and you can see that these are the Eldoret Uasin Gishu County, that is the anti-protesters sitting there. Perhaps I think this could be a cultural thing, because it happened to have my brother there who said today the community would come there and do their thing, and this seems to be what is happening there. This is actually the county headquarters. Parking area on your left would be the headquarters, the office of the governor, but these are the anti-government protesters as they sit there, do their thing. Let's just, if we could just listen into what is happening there, let's listen in. Yes, those are the anti-protesters in Uasin Gishu County as we continue to bring you unrivaled coverage on the happenings today. And these are men who are walking with their batons. They say they are anti-protesters in Uasin Gishu County. This follows the protests that were witnessed in Eldoret, Uasin Gishu County. We saw the property that was destroyed even within these premises. That is the county headquarters, the county court that was actually razed down, including some vehicles that belong to the county. But these are the anti-protesters, anti-financeable protesters who are seated there as they go about, should be the cultural, as Swahili people would say, matambiko, in making sure that everything goes as planned, equally making sure that no protesters actually are within the CBD in Uasin Gishu County. Jesse. Well,
they definitely seem to be sending a message right there in terms of holding vigil around Eldoret town and ensuring that security perhaps on their end is okay. As we can see, this is still around industrial area in Nairobi. Earlier on, our reporter Jeff Kirui told us that one of the armored personnel carrier vehicles had actually faced mechanical problems, and it still seems to be, it's actually 3 of them that seems not to be moving right there. As you can see, some of the police officers from the remand prison have actually come out, just standing outside there, which has caused a little bit of a commotion. But Aseto, one thing is for sure, that security this time round is definitely of utmost priority. We've seen them come out in their numbers, a stark difference from what we saw on Tuesday. No instances of police being overwhelmed in one way or the other. However, it seems to be hitting up in the CBD. As you can see, this is Nairobi. Various police officers just making their way, trying to quell some masses perhaps who had gathered in support of the finance bill protest. So heavy police presence, heavy deployment of security personnel across the country, especially in Nairobi County, even as our reporter, as you can see, Moses Wahisi right there, just following the police men as they make their way down that particular street. This is Moi Avenue, if I'm not wrong, I think, as they head down to secure that particular street. But remember, on Tuesday and Wednesday, our team endeavored to put faces to the names of those who had actually been injured, not just injured, but the lives that had been taken away during the protests that were held on Tuesday. One positive note today is that we haven't reported any deaths so far across the country, despite some instances of altercation between police officers and members of the public in Migori, where 4 are sustaining gunshot wounds. But in Nairobi, it seems everything is speak and span, even as the police endeavor to break down the protesters who might have gathered in various parts of the central business district. Even as what we've seen characterize the central business district today is that most businesses are closed. That seems to be one of the downsides of the protest that we saw in Nairobi. And on Tuesday, remember, vandalism was noted across the CBD. This time round, it seems the businesses and the businessmen actually were cautious in terms of opening. They were skeptical in terms of the state of peace in the country. But remember, on Tuesday evening, President William Ruto gave an assurance that security is of utmost priority in terms of your own personal security, in terms of businesses as well. And this time round, police have been heavily deployed across various parts of the country, specifically Nairobi, and their numbers have been buffered up by the KDF officers who are still going around the CBD, various parts of Nairobi, to ensure that security is tight. Right, Aseto?
Yes, indeed, Jesse. As we continue to bring you this live coverage, it is important to remember that President William Ruto said that security is of utmost priority and that they will do everything necessary to make sure that the country is actually safe and secure. As you can see, that is 2 police lorries, and it seems like they are doing what we do, transfer from one lorry to the other as they get transported perhaps to where they will be detained today as they get processed before they are taken to court. And this seems to be the best way in making sure that no one escapes. We saw that during the protest that people would actually climb on top of these vehicles but managed to beat the police and run away. But today, it is reverse gear, making sure that everybody that has been arrested gets inside and will be processed and perhaps be taken to court. But this is just to bring you up to speed on this situation across the country, the security that has been tightened. These following the demonstrations that we've witnessed for the past pretty much like 2 weeks, as police officers continue to make sure that the country is safe, that no demonstrators are in the city. The economy of the city has literally come to a standstill. Entrepreneurs, businesses have closed down due to fear of looting that we've seen following the previous protest, which is an unfortunate incident. Even Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua speaking to the same yesterday while in Mombasa, calling upon protesters to stop and come to the table and discuss on the way forward with regard to the finance bill. And as you can see, that is, this looks like Moi Avenue, as police continue to take their positions in making sure that everything goes on well. And this looks like Tom Mboya further up towards Jivanji as you go towards University Highway on the other side, and police lobbing tear gas. Perhaps that area could be that stretch. Maybe protesters are there and the police are serious and are maintaining that no protests will be in the CBD. Today we've seen heightened security officers, walls of police officers doing rounds, making sure that everything goes according to plan. And today they are making sure that protesters are not going beyond Tom Mboya or Moi Avenue. They are pushing protesters further downtown towards Valley Road, and also just making sure that no one is protesting. And of importance to remember equally is that entrepreneurs have taken charge, making sure and are saying that they will protect their businesses. That is the situation down there, as we were speaking earlier with Moses Wahisi while he was speaking with the businesses there, including the entrepreneurs who are actually saying because of the ongoing protests, they've been forced to close business. And this has equally affected them because they do not have their customers who would make their business run, therefore calling upon the president, calling upon Kenyans pretty much to allow things to go back to normalcy so that they can continue with their normal ways of life and normal businesses as would be. And as you can see, police officers are now going further down Tomboy Street as they sweep these roads, sweep these streets, and making sure that security is actually realized. And of importance is that as we speak about the CBD at the moment right now, we have the military who have been actually doing rounds in the city, making sure that the place is actually safe. And as we speak right now, we can see that the entourage from the industrial area prisons is actually moving. Looks like the armored personnel carriers are moving right now, but we shall be touching base with the footage coming from that side of town. But again, yes, as we speak now, these are the military who are moving armored personnel carriers that the military are using in just doing rounds in the city. But the question is, why do we have the military actually deployed in the country? This is because the police were overwhelmed, and the Defense Cabinet Secretary gazetted the deployment of the military to assist the police in maintaining security. That after that gazette notice, the National Assembly was called yesterday. They sat and they passed two key things, which was they went on recess, that is, the National Assembly went on recess, but equally approved the deployment of the military to assist with maintaining security in the country. The president, in his speech, saying that security is important, that he will make sure that the country is safe, even as Kenyans continue to exercise their right under Article 37 of demonstrating, picketing, but that security has to be maintained. The military has been deployed. And just as we talk about the deployment of security, a lot of Kenyans are actually anxious and seem to be at awe at the military police because it is not a common thing.
Yeah, it definitely isn't a sight we're used to seeing, especially military officers patrolling various parts of the country. And if you can remember, the last times we've received deployment is during the cattle rustling menace, and equally I think there was deployment in Tana River County as well.
Kupata huduma za Halo Pesa, piga *150 *88 alama ya reli, au pakua application ya Halo Pesa kupitia Play Store au App Store. Application ya Halo Pesa inakuwezesha kununua muda maongezi, kufanya miamala bank, malipo ya serikali, kulipia vingamuzi, kulipa bili za maji, kununua luku, kulipia michezo kubashiri na kufanya malipo ya bidhaa mbalimbali, na pia kufanya malipo ya mishahara, bila kusahau kutuma na kupokea pesa